Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. Today we're going to talk about Dhampir, which is the race coming with the Lamortia expansion later this year. I'm going to break down first the cosmetic appearances, and then we'll do an analysis of the enhancement tree. That'll be ability by ability. We'll go through all of it, and then I'll show you some of the active attacks and other fun stuff like the dances and whatnot. So description, you'll have timestamps to all the stuff if you want to skip around. Let's go ahead and start with the basics of this race. So if you haven't heard, the race is basically half vampire. So it's the progeny of a one parent being a vampire and the other parent being non-vampire. In DDO, it's being presented as human vampire hybrid. But according to lore, as far as I understand, it doesn't necessarily have to be human in vampire. It could be a different race in vampire, but this is the presentation in DDO. The basic stats, so Dhampir is a strength-based race. It starts with +2 to strength. Some other attributes for them: they do not need to breathe underwater. They get a feat called Vampiric Bite, which we'll talk about here later when we get to the enhancement tree. Their racial past life: for the first life, you get +1 hide, second life, +1 strength, and third life, as every racial third past life, you get +1 racial action point. I'm going to show you today the base race. As far as the iconic, there will be a Dhampir iconic, but we don't have any information. Well, we have a little bit, but not much information on that yet. It has not been previewed, so we haven't seen the tree or the look or anything like that. So we won't be going through the iconic in this video. We know a few things, though. The iconic will be called the Dark Bargainer, and it starts with 1 level of Warlock. And unlike the base Dhampir, which starts with +2 to strength, the iconic Dhampir is going to start with +1 intelligence and +1 charisma. My assumption is the base Dhampir is a little more melee focused, and then the iconic, we haven't seen it yet, but my presumption is it'll be a little more castery in focus. So let's start just with the cosmetics here. So the cosmetic appearances, it looks like with the hairstyle, head style, all this, they went with they basically gave you the option of human, and there's a bunch of elf looks in here. There's a lot of I think there's a few of these are new. As you can see by the two-tone, they do have the same as Eladrin. They have the two-tone option, so you can have hair be 2 different colors like this. Not all hairstyles support that, but most do. Some other cool cosmetic differences for them: they have fangs, as you can see. You have different types of fangs here. You can also have different types of ears, so you can go more human ear or more, say, elven ears if you want to. We've got some cool details you can have with the facial detail if you want. You can have blood coming out of their mouth. You don't have to, though. There's a bunch of other options, skin tone options. You can make it like very pale looking vampire or really any array of skin color you'd like. Eye color and glow shape. They do have a glow if you want. You don't have to use the glow. So you can have normal eyes, or you can have any different set of glowing eyes. You can pick your eye color, lip color. This is the female, obviously. We'll get to the male in a second. Jewelry, you get a little earrings and such. You can even change your jewelry color, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, but you can change your jewelry color. So that's the female. Let's now go to the male. So here's the male. Not too much else really to say. They have a lot of the same thing as females. So you've got glowing eyes. You have the ability here to have blood in your mouth if you want to. So there you go. Facial detail, the same kind of different human, elf, and it looks like a few different new hairstyles here. Two-tone options for males as well. Same skin color options as far as I can tell. Glow color, just like female, and jewelry options just like female, and even lip color options. Just like female. So yeah, there's the male. Here's a few random looks for you just to look at. Okay, let's move on now to the enhancement tree. Before we get to the enhancement tree, we got to talk about the inherent abilities. So Dhampir traits here. This is the underwater breathing I referenced before, but the one I need to go over is Vampiric Bite. So you get this at level 1 on character creation, and this is one of the key abilities of the class. So Vampiric Bite, it's a single target action. You bite your target creature at touch range, dealing 1d4 piercing damage per character level. This scales with 200% melee or range power. Although it says though it is not a weapon attack and cannot crit, if that creature is living and corporal, you heal for 10 plus heroic character level times constitution modifier number of hit points from positive energy. The damage does not have a saving throw. The upgrades to this ability may have one. You may use this twice per rest. So you can use this twice per rest, but you do have upgrades we'll get to in the tree here where you can get a maximum of 5 uses per rest. It does not recharge currently. So the other thing with this, it gives you a small heal. 10 plus heroic character level times con modifier isn't going to be a lot of hit points. And as far as I can tell, it does not scale. The damage does, but as far as I can tell, the healing does not scale. So it's not really a big heal. It's just like a minor heal. But there's some other benefits to using Bite we'll get to in a second. Okay, let's get to the tree. So the cores. The cores, and this is where we're going to get extra uses of Vampiric Bite. And there's other, like I said, there's other abilities for Bite as we go up the tree. So let's see. So core 1 plus 1 Vampiric Bite use per rest. Your choice in the cores of Charisma, Con, or Strength. So you've got another use of Bite for the third core, fourth core, another stat. And then let's go ahead and get to, okay. The fifth core I actually can't take because this character I rolled up on Lamani is only level 12, but it's just another use of Vampiric Bite per rest. Okay, let's go to Tier 1 now. Tier 1, this is Draining Bite. Your Vampiric Bite now applies 1 negative level. This increases by 1 for every 5 character levels you have. So that means you've got a maximum of what? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. What is that? 6 negative levels maximum if you're at character level 30, for example. So negative levels depends, really not that great of an ability because when you get into specifically like epics and later, monsters recover negative levels really quick, and it's just not like super great of a debuff. It's not terrible, but it's something, but it's not that great. Let's get to skills. This is just hide, move silently, and jump. Nothing really to say there. For this next tier 1, we have Drink in Life. So you have a choice of positive or negative healing amp. So, and we will get to tier 2 in the tree where you have the option for undead form. So if you want to be undead, maybe you take negative. Then we got core 4, the tenuous relationship with death. Your range of unconsciousness extends by 5 hit points, 10, and then 20 if you take all 3 tiers. And also if you get to the 3rd tier, you automatically stabilize when unconscious. So that's kind of nice, kind of like Die Hard. I will say this is pretty lacking. 20 hit points for 3 points. 20 points of hit points of unconsciousness range is especially, I mean, maybe at low levels it's okay, but when you get higher level, it's kind of not great. I mean, it is a tier 1, but it'd be nice if this was a little more than just 20. Let's see. So the last tier here, plus 3 saves per spells if you take all 3 tiers. Okay, more saves is never bad, though it's unfortunate specifically against spells only. Okay, let's get to tier 2. So tier 1's not really that great. Let's get to tier 2. So this is the first of the abilities that upgrades your bite. So this one's pretty nice. So if you take all 3 tiers, you get Lifeblood. So anytime you use bite, you get plus 3 to all ability scores for 60 seconds. So kind of buff. So bite in this tree, it's less of a damage ability. It seems like what they're going for, and more of a buff. And a little bit of a heal. It's more of a support ability for yourself or a buff ability for yourself than like a reliable source of big damage. But in this case, it makes it a plus 3 to all ability scores buff for 60 seconds. Considering you have maximum of 5 uses, you can get up to 5 minutes plus 3 ability scores. Let's go to the next ability here, Dominate Animal. So there's some Dominate abilities, which is it's a charm essentially, which I'm not a fan of because the thing is there's so many quests in DDO that require you to kill everything to progress. So charm just isn't really practical in DDO, and especially in a party situation, it's just not practical. Now maybe you like charms, maybe you like charm and stuff for soloing. I think it maybe is fine, but for party situations and for a lot of quests, it's something I personally would never use. I mean, maybe you guys like it, someone out there really likes it, but I would never use this ability or ever take it. So Embrace Death, this is the undead form. So let's just read it here. It's a toggle. Obviously, while Embrace Death is active, you gain 100% crit resistance, just like any undead form, and you heal by negative energy. You can take 50% healing from positive and double damage from light. You are considered undead. You get plus 2 intelligence, plus 2 charisma, plus 2 wisdom, and plus 3 perform. Your melee attacks have a 10% chance to heal you for 1d3 negative energy per character level, so you get the vampire benefit, kind of like Impale Master. Will you heal? This is a major form and counts as a vampire form for purposes of Pale Master. So it's a major form, so you can't use other major forms as well. Like you can't do, for example, a undead bear in Druid, for example, because you can't have two major forms at one time. So yeah, if you want to go undead, here's your ability. You will be undead. And we'll talk at the end of this video kind of my overall thoughts about the undead form and the support or lack of that the tree has. Okay, Rush of Bats. 3 tiers. You turn into a swarm of bats and rush the target's position. The description here is all the same for all 3 tiers, so I'm not really sure. Probably the damage, I assume, or the cooldown is what's changing. I'm sorry. So tier 1 is 24 seconds, tier 2 18, tier 3 is 12-second cooldown, so the cooldown decreases if you take more. I'm sounding pretty negative about this tree so far, I know. But this ability is, I would never ever take it. It's a shield charge ability, essentially, and it requires a hard target to work, so you can't use it like a dash. These abilities to me are clunky when you're using them in game. I would never take this personally. Maybe you like charges, maybe hey, or there's some Vanguard players out there who really like that kind of stuff. Personally, I would never use this. Let's see. Okay, tier 3. Or tier 2, the next ability, we have +6 MRR if you take all 3 tiers, and +6 MRR rating cap. Okay, never a bad thing to get more MRR. Let's go tier 4. Okay, Fearsome Countenance. This is target enemy in melee range must make a will save 10+ highest of strength, con, or cha mod plus stunning bonuses plus enchantment DC bonuses for the DC. So that's a lot of stuff adding. A lot of the stuff like stunning blow would just be the ability score plus the base plus stunning, but this also lets you have enchantment DC on top of that. Or if you succeed, or if the monster fails its save, rather, it will be cowered for 6 seconds. So cowering is something that works. It's basically stun, but better, because cower works. It makes them helpless, and it works on undead, and it works on reapers. So it's really quite a great cower is just a really great effect. Let's see, on save. So even if they save, also the mobs gets -10% movement and attack speed for 6 seconds, 12-second cooldown. So this ability is basically a single target version of Dragon Lord's Dragon's Roar. It is only single target though, not AoE, so that makes it a lot worse. And but it's kind of weird with the animation. I'll show you here in a minute. But the animation currently has a casting animation. I think that the animation is not properly developed yet here in the first preview. But yeah, it's basically a single target version of Dragon's Roar. So it's okay, but like it's too bad it's not AoE. If it was AoE, it would be way better. But you will be able to get the DC pretty high with all the things that are adding into this bonus, if you want to. Though you'll have to put in enchantment DCs. So if you're running something like a Barbarian, that's going to be a little weird to slot. So it's really an ability it's really more for, say, like an Eldritch Knight or something is what this is more geared for. But you can make use of it on any other, like a normal melee class, like a Barbarian or whatever, by just slotting the enchantment DC as well. Okay, so next, Stunning Visage. So you get some synergy for this ability. You get up to +4 stun DCs to power this in that tier. So that's obviously extra DCs. Very good. Deathly Bite. When you are considered undead via the Embrace, so if you're in undead form, your vampiric bite heals you for negative energy instead of positive. This is kind of, I wrote this, and we'll go into this later, but on the forums today, I wrote about this, and this is just, to me, it's just kind of a feat tax for going undead. I think this should just be a part of the bite ability inherently. Like there should be a positive variant and a negative variant, but if you go undead, you have to spend an extra action point just to get the bite to heal you in negative instead of positive. But yeah. But if you don't take this, then it just heals positive. So if you are undead, you'll probably want to take this. You'll want to take it if you plan to make use of Bite. So Harrying Swarm. Enemies in a small area around you where you finish your Rush of Bats take -5% dodge and -5% attack for 12 seconds. Again, this is tied to the Rush of Bats shield charge, which I personally don't like. But if you use it, okay, enemies get -5% dodge, -5% attack. Okay, that's something. It's not debuffing their defenses other than dodge, but it's not making them take more damage. But if they have dodge, then okay, you can bypass more of it. That's great. But again, I would never, like, I'm not going to use Rush of Bats personally, so I won't take this. Okay, improved dodge. It's too bad it's tied to unfortunately it's tied to an ability that I just don't think is going to work too well. Let's see. Okay, improved dodge. You can get up to 3% extra dodge when wearing light or no armor. So it does specify light or no armor. Let's go to the final tier here. So Ascendant Bite, your Vampiric Bite now applies 5 stacks of vulnerability. Okay, so it does vulnerability. So they take more damage, and it deals double the piercing damage, so ups the damage of your bite, essentially. If the target of your Vampiric Bite is Coward, Living, Corporal, they must make a Fortitude saving throw, DC 16 plus highest of Strength, Con, Cha, Mod, plus stunning bonuses, plus enchantment bonuses, or die. So this is a kind of builds upon the previous ability here. So what we were talking about before, where is it at? Fearsome Countenance, that makes things cower. If you hit something with Fierce Countenance and then you hit it with Bite and they fail their save, they will just instantly die. Not that great, really, the insta-die thing, because it's tied to an ability. So you have to prep them first. In DDO, any ability like this that's tied to having to be prepped, it's generally not very good, because monsters die before you can really prep this. That's why I'm not a fan of, say, abilities like coup de grace or anything that require, that's a bard ability, but abilities that require you to do a prep move in order to get the insta kill, because practicality, they're going to be dead before you can do that. It just doesn't really work out in practice. But I guess that's an extra benefit if you take this, and you do get the vulnerability to debuff them a little bit. Okay, so it's something, and it has the same DC as the previous ability here, with the highest of Strength and Cha or Con plus stunning. And maybe you can make use of something like this on a tank, I don't know, to get some kind of DPS. It's one thing about like tanks who might really like something like Ravager, these abilities that can kill things that aren't tied to your damage. It's tied to some kind of insta kill. So maybe a tank could make use of this and would like this more than other builds, probably, but still probably not that great because it requires the prep. So you get extra DCs. So you get enchantment DCs, which goes into these abilities. So to help power these abilities, you can get up to +3 enchantment DCs. This is another dominate. So another charm SLA. Again, I talked about that already. I'm not going to use charms because too many quests in DDO require you to kill mobs to progress. Finally, Biting Swarm. Living corporal enemies in a small area around where you finish your rush of bats are bitten by the bats, causing them to bleed. So basically, this is a bleed effect, taking 1d6 damage per character level every 2 seconds for 12 seconds. This damage scales with 200% melee power. So basically a bleed ability. Again, ability I never take, because it takes too long in my experience for it just takes too long for the bleed damage to build up to any amount of damage that's relevant, and stuff dies quick enough in DDO that it's going to die before it takes tons of bleed damage. Not all enemies, but the vast majority. So I probably wouldn't take this. It's also tied again to that shield charge ability, which I'm not a fan of. It's just clunky to use. So yeah, that's my take. So I know I was pretty negative on the enhancement tree. I think this is preview though. This is Lamania, so I hope they can make some changes to make it more attractive. So here we are now in the test dojo. I'm going to show you on some of these test kobolds what these abilities look like. So here's a Vampiric Bite, the main one of the class. That's what it looks like, and it's got all the different effects as I've taken everything in the enhancement tree. So again, three uses. So there we go. We get a little bit of a heal. Character that I leveled this character Barbarian up to level 12 just for testing. So there's Bite, Dominate Animal. It's just a charm. It's not going to work on the kobold. Dominate Person will work though. But yeah, just a charm. We've got Fearsome Countenance. So this is basically the single target Dragon's Roar like ability that cowers. I don't think so. There's the ability, and so you can see the kobold's cowered. I don't think it's working properly right now. As I mentioned before, it has this caster spell like animation. And one thing to note about Bite and this ability, so Bite is touch range, so you do need to be, so here we go, let's show you the range of Bite. The Bite's about that range, and then Fearsome Countenance is not. They did say this is bugged right now in Lamania, but it's supposed to be melee range attack, so you have to be like right up on them to use that. But again, I think the animation's not complete yet. Okay, Rush of Bats. This is the shield charge like ability. Show you that. So there you go. It's kind of like other shield charge abilities. You can see the bleed damage from the enhancements hitting the kobold there. He's taking a little bit of bleed. Don't buy anything into the damage numbers. This is just a character I rolled up, so they just have starter gear on. I've not geared this character or anything like that, just to be clear on that. Here's another rush of bats. I like the animation, though. That's one cool thing. Another thing about the animation I want to point out is that it seems like Dhampir was given the Aasimar body type at start, so they carry their weapons, as you can see, like Aasimar does, and not like, say, human. So let's see. Let's do one more rush of bats. So it's got a decent little range, just like any. Let's actually test out. Do one more here to test out the range. See how far away we can get until we can hit this kobold. So still won't work. So the range is right there. Okay, finally, let's do Embrace Death. This is the undead form. So if you go into the undead form, it's not like something like Dark Apostate from Cleric, where it's going to completely, kind of overwrite your character's cosmetic look. It is kind of a lot of bloom in this section. It is as you can see, it's like a smoky. You see the smoke coming off the Dhampir here. It's basically a smoky effect. It's not something that's going to drastically change the cosmetic look of your character. So now the form is off. So you can see no more smoky effect. Now the form is on. No, not yet. Now the form is on. You get a smoky effect. So there you go. That's what that looks like. Finally, the last thing I'll show you is the dance. So here's the first dance. You all tell me if these are new. I'm actually not sure if these are new or not. But every race has 2 dances. So there's the first one. And here is the second one. And this is female, obviously. So if the males differ, you'll have to check that yourself. But here's the female ones. Hey y'all, Axel from editing here. Realized I didn't do the male dances. So here's the male dance number 1. And here is male dance number 2. Okay, as for my final thoughts, and I wrote this down, I'm reading this off of notes so I don't forget anything, and I actually made a post there on the Lamania forums kind of giving my overall impressions. But so my main thought on Dhampir is I think the race needs more support for the undead form, mostly more negative healing. I'm struggling to think of classes other than ones that have undead forms already that would not be strictly worse from playing as undead. So I'm not, you even get things like a feat tax, like I mentioned, or not a feat tax, but an action point tax for playing in negative. So the only negative heal you really get is that bite, but it's not going to be very much. And you only have 5 uses of bite. So you're going to struggle to heal yourself on most classes. I mean, some classes will work, say like fighter, because you can use second wind, which doesn't care. It's just a percentage heal, so it doesn't care if you're undead or not. But I think most classes are going to struggle to heal themselves while in undead form, unless you're playing in a class that has a form already and support for undead. Because most class trees just don't have any support for undead. So I think that's one of the biggest issues here. You'll mostly just be taking half healing as you play through the game if we're talking about most abilities, and particularly with parties. If you're playing in parties, negative healers just aren't a thing in DDO outside of maybe some super niche guild scenarios. But for the most part, people heal in groups with positive energy when it comes to healers, not negative. So you're not really going to get negative healing from the outside. You're not really going to get healing from the outside on a regular basis that's negative. The form option for undead, I think, should just be inherent to the race rather than require 6 action points, because if the form was just inherent to the race and you could just have a toggle upon character creation, I think that would make it more attractive to players to not have to spend those, particularly people who want to play as undead but don't have any extra racial action points from tomes or racial past lives. I mean, 6 AP is not a ton, but why not just let you choose undead or regular from character creation? I think you should be able to. The other thing is, I think Deathly Bite in Tier 3, as I mentioned before, that's the ability that lets you heal with negative. I don't see why you should have to take that 1 action point for that ability. That should just be inherent to the ability. I think Bite should just have 2 options on character creation, 1 positive, 1 negative. Have them obviously share the same cooldown, so you can't use both. And or if you want people to choose on character creation, you could build it into the feats, but and have you take a feat at level 1, negative or positive. But I wouldn't do that. I would just give all Dhampir both. Bite. Okay, let's talk about bite. They probably need to do away with the limited charges. It's not so strong right now that it needs to have limited charges. So unless they significantly buff it, I don't really see why it should have limited charges. I mean, at the least, it should have some way to regenerate the charges if they're going to keep it as is. Bite in terms of the animation, I think looks cool. It's a little slow though, and it's gonna definitely, you can't be quickened. I did try that on Lamania. It seems like none of the stuff can be quickened, so it is going to slow down your melee DPS. There isn't a lot of support for just damage in the tree for bite. Like you aren't gonna see it as a big DPS ability or anything like that. It's more of a buff and a little bit of a heal. A couple other things they could do is maybe with bite, this would kind of solve the most classes not having negative healing support that might use Dhampir. Is maybe with bite, they should, if you use the negative version, you should get a large heal, and maybe the positive, if you play Dhampir not as undead, then maybe you could have keep the small heal, because if you're playing as positive, you're gonna have other options, lots of other places in the game where you can get positive heals, epic destinies and such, dragon marks, whatever else. There's a lot of options. Well, actually, dragon mark doesn't make sense because that's tied to a race, so forget I said that. But there's a lot of other positive healing options in the game, a lot more than negative. So maybe that would be a way to encourage undead form a little bit, because it just seems like you're strictly worse in most situations from playing as undead. And let's see what else. The fearsome countenance, talked about this before a little bit, but that's the single target dragon's roar. The animation probably needs to be changed. And the last thing I mentioned, some of the abilities just to me are just useless, like the charms, the shield charge like ability. I just would never use those for reasons already stated. So guys, that's my overall thoughts right now on Dhampir. It is on Lamania, so I hope they make some changes to improve it. As it is right now, I don't see it being that strong of a race. It's more of a flavor thing right now. So we'll see. We'll stay tuned for future previews to see if they make any improvements. So I think the feedback that I've read, and I've talked to some strong players about Dhampir so far and their initial thoughts, and I've read a lot on the forums about the forums initial thoughts from the community, talked to people on Discord. So overall, from the community, it seems to be pretty negative, the reception. Now, on the positive, I think that it's cool that we're finally getting a race that has an undead option. So anyone can play undead, and that's pretty cool from a flavor perspective. If you're just playing in a group with two Pale Masters, hey, I want to be undead too on my fighter so that I can benefit from their auras. In that way, I can still heal with my second wind, and all life will be good. So there'll be some situations will just be fun. And there'll be some cool static group options where everyone could play as undead. That would be neat. So I think it's cool from a flavor perspective. I think cosmetically, I've seen some people say they're ugly. I think they actually look pretty cool. If you go through the character creation, that you'll see that there's a lot of options. I mean, they give you all the human, all the elf, and there's some different options as well. And you get the two-tone hair options. I think the blood and the fangs all look really cool, and you get the glowing eyes. I think there's a lot of cool things with the appearance. I even would like to see the undead form even do I always felt this way about vampire form. I always thought it should be, especially the Dhampir form, instead of just giving this little mist, I would like to see something a little more pronounced with the form. Like something like Dark Apostate, I think looks freaking awesome. Whereas with Dhampir, you kind of just have some smoke on your shoulders. So I would like to see them do a little more with that. But yeah, guys, that's my initial thoughts on Dhampir. Let me know what you think below in the comments. Look forward to reading those as always. See y'all next time. You all have a good one. Take care.